This is the Analysing Anfield podcast on the Blood Red channel, bringing you the best tactical and statistical analysis of Liverpool FC.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield. I'm Josh Williams and I'm joined by, as ever, David Hughes. How are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, I'm alright, mate. Apologies to those watching who'll see I've got a cap on like a 12-year-old, facing backwards, but this hair is no longer suitable for the public eye, so it'll have to be done. But except for that, I'm alright, mate. How are you?
I'm alright, yeah. This seems to be a weekly thing, this, doesn't it, in terms of the weekly update on the state of each other's hair.
But I feel like it's something that maybe less for any of our female listeners, but certainly the male listeners, everybody's, I imagine, in the same boat.
Yeah.
So
I've said a few times that I think I'm going down like the Gianfranco Zola, Diego Maradona kind of wig. But, hopefully it ends up a little bit better. But, we'll never know. Have to just see how we go with that. But we assume anyway that the people still with us, you fair play to them, because they've got to be the diehard football fans that are still wanting content despite the lack of football now for 1 month, 2 months, is it? Something like that?
Yeah, about to say 5-6 weeks maybe. Long time.
Yeah, so if you're still with us, fair play. You must love football as much as we do. But today we are going to continue with the series that we thought ended last week. We went down the route of creating a alternative Liverpool 11 for those that haven't been with us. The team was based on if we wanted an 11 to play exactly how Liverpool do, with the same threats in the same areas and all stuff like that. But Liverpool's whole 11 didn't exist. And we created our team over the course of 3 weeks. We did the forwards, then we did the midfielders, then we did the defence. And we concluded that. And we were going to leave it there. But I mentioned last week at the end of the podcast, would people like to hear the same show, but on Jurgen Klopp, basically? And I've received enough replies to suggest that people want to hear this. So we've done the same for Klopp, basically. So maybe a shorter episode, we don't know yet. See how we go at least. But we're trying to find a boss, basically a manager that can come in and do as close to what Jurgen Klopp does as possible. And I don't know about yourself, Dave, but I think this episode might have a lot more longevity attached to it in terms of when Klopp does actually leave, maybe these names will actually apply. Whereas the Liverpool 11, Liverpool aren't going to sell a whole 11, are they?
No, yeah, that's it. You're replacing one position, aren't you, or one role instead of potentially 11.
Yeah, but I found that the managers I've identified here, I think they could well be in the frame in a few years' time when Klopp does eventually go. But once again, though, anyway, I haven't seen Dave's suggestions. Dave hasn't seen mine. So we will get started. So as ever, Dave, you can go first.
I was actually going to put that to you, but only because I'm pretty sure this week that we might be close on a couple of names.
If we haven't got at least one of the same name, something's going wrong here. But I don't know about you. I came up with a bit of a, what I deemed to be an important criteria. I don't know about you. Did you?
Well, yeah, I did, yeah. But if you want to start at the top with what you consider to be the important criteria, it might be good for the show.
Yeah. So I listed a number of things that I think Klopp delivers that are just very, very important. So first of all, he is an attraction. He has like a law about him that brings people to the club, high profile people to the club and that sort of thing. And I think Liverpool have benefited with that in terms of big signings, for example, like Van Dijk and Alisson, players like that. Maybe they wouldn't come if Klopp wasn't here. We never know. Secondly, he speaks English very well. His game, pressing, intensity, for me that coincides with the habits of the city. I think there's a good blend there. Proven ability to coach according to the numbers. A track record of winning, including silverware. A character that is kind of larger than life. Very, very important, this one. He improved players. I felt like that was an important one, especially considering the way FSG go about recruitment and stuff like that. Really important that rather than being a manager who can just use players, a bit like Mourinho, maybe Klopp improves them, takes them to the next level. So I think whoever comes in aside Klopp, instead of Klopp, would have to do that. And finally, kind of a willingness to let others do their jobs. I think Rodgers was a bit inclined to want control of recruitment, for example, and I think Klopp's very collegiate in that he's willing to. What's the word for there?
Not outsourced, but
he's not a dictator, is he? He's the opposite of that,
yeah,
whatever the opposite of that is.
Yeah, no.
So that's kind of my my tick boxes, if you like.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with most of them. I don't know if I was as focused on the larger than life type character persona, just because I think Klopp's got that down to a T, and I think it could be hard to maybe replicate it as good as him. But certainly things that you were touching on there is things I've kind of tried to look for. The manager I've started with, I think, is probably the most obvious candidate, but still can't be ignored, and that's obviously Leipzig's manager, Julian Nagelsmann.
Of course.
Yeah. Just because, I can't have this conversation without including him. I actually feel like most people listening to this will know who he is, but as a quick, kind of round up history, just before I carry on, Josh, have you included him?
He was also on my first, yeah.
Yeah, fair. Okay. So maybe what I'll try and, get my point across, but maybe not try and hog the microphone, for want of a better term, because he's someone that I think both of us would enjoy talking about. But he's someone that never reached the highest level in terms of playing career. Retired at 20 through injury. Went back and studied the game. Obtained a bachelor's in sport and training science. Went to work at Hoffenheim. Was promoted within after doing well with the youth sides. Took over Up Stevens to be the youngest Bundesliga coach in 2017, and I think at the time Hoffenheim were in the relegation zone. Or near the relegation zone, and he steered them from safety. But just a really, really exciting manager. He's the kind of staples you come to expect with him as his sides. They like to attack, very vertical in the play, quick forward passes, really aggressive without the ball. Press relentlessly. These are things that you really associate with Klopp. This is his first year at Leipzig, and the 5 points off top spot. If you remember, just before the season was suspended for COVID-19, they comfortably beat Tottenham. I'm pretty sure they beat them home and away, didn't they, Josh?
Yeah, they did. I think it was 1-0 away, and something like 3-0 at home.
3-0, yeah. It felt like a really comfortable victories for them.
Sorry, mate, just been attacked by a wasp.
Oh, you all right?
In my room. Go on, carry on.
How did it get in?
I don't know, but I'm on edge here, like.
Sounds okay.
Go on, let you carry on.
Where was I? Yeah, it's in terms of like playing principles. Wing backs are pushed up high up the pitch, similar to Liverpool, but that's more with an idea of stretching defending teams and creating openings within, rather than necessarily build down the flanks. Midfielders rotate, drop into those positions where the wing backs go and come and collect the ball. Just these kind of behaviours that we've come to associate with Klopp's Liverpool. But I think what's really important this year is there just seems to be, as obviously with a better team with Leipzig, and I think a lot of people that now understand what the type of coach he is, and there's been examples of him overcoming obstacles in terms of how they're setting up to play. His side's quite well known for hitting fast, in the transitions, exploiting spaces, and what you're finding is a lot of teams now are sitting a lot deeper. If we look at Leipzig last season to this season, okay, no, he wasn't the coach last season, but they had the PPDA against of around 9.4. This season it's dropped to 12.6, so it shows that teams are sit back a little bit more, but Leipzig still find the ways to get through that. Really good combination play up in like the attack and third. And if we go back to some of the things that you alluded to earlier, Josh, his English is fantastic. He's got a clear direction and philosophy, meaning that everybody knows which way the club's going, and all pulling in one direction. He's comfortable working with directors of football, and outsourcing things that need to be outsourced. And I think the whole Red Bull kind of institution is really good for managers to, I can't think of the best, apply the trade almost. It's just a really good organisation to come through and set you up for a bigger move eventually. I think he's just a perfect candidate.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned at the end there is crucial for me. I think almost any head coach that takes over at any of the Red Bull clubs kind of would apply vaguely to at least to a Liverpool role, and that's player or staff, really, just because of the similar styles of play, similar principles and stuff like that. Obviously, Nagelsmann's currently in charge over there, and I found that when I was listing for each manager that I've picked, I found that like when I was listing, each positive, if you like, I found that I was just reeling them off for him. He was just, endless. Really, there's too many little things to pick up on. I found it. I think it's important with him. He seems to have a real human touch. I think he seems to, the fact he was a player himself and he suffered, misfortune by getting injured. Maybe he's got that side to him now. But I remember him famously saying that 30% of coaching is tactics and 70% is social competence. I think that was an interesting little shout. And it goes about, I think he ticks both of those boxes. I think he can clearly communicate with people. As you say, his English is very good, but tactically he's quite fluid as well. He seems to me to be very level-headed. I think he got approached. I think I read about him getting approached by Real Madrid, and rather than just diving on it because it's Real Madrid, he was, streetwise enough to appreciate that he's not really ready for that, and his style of coaching doesn't really complement Real Madrid in terms of, developments and stuff like that. Real Madrid's very much about results. You get results, and then you leave. And I think Nagelsmann wants a bit more than that, hence why he's probably chooses Liverpool. I think his coaching method is very modern. I think he's famous for using very futuristic. I think he was one of the first to introduce drones and things like that into training. One thing he hasn't experienced winning in terms of silverware and things like that, but he has achieved Champions qualification with Hoffenheim, which I think you mentioned, and obviously he's currently challenging Bayern Munich, despite having a squad that's nowhere near as good. But I think another box that crucially this season we've seen that he ticks is he improves players. I think Timo Werner's moved on to a different level, and another one that I just pointed out is Christopher Nkunku, who's really came on as well. But I think at Liverpool he would have to bring an ability to improve players, and I think he's shown that this season, hasn't
he? Yeah, no, yeah, that really good point. If you think about specifically that play in Nkunku, like he was considered a little bit of, I don't know if misfit's the right term, but he was getting linked with places, but no one was really sure whether he'd be, a real success. I remember writing about him last year. Did he go from PSG? Was it, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it didn't look anywhere near the player he's turned out to be. There was definitely potential there, but there was a lot of question marks over there. And I think he's arrived at a good club with a really good coach who's obviously developed him fantastically. I'm seeing the benefits of it, but there's quite a few examples in that team that he's playing a part in why so many of their players are now so highly thought of. We were both raving about Upamecano last week, weren't we? On the show. Obviously, he's had another. If you're talking about players have gone up a level, like you were with Timo Werner, I think he's done exactly that as well. So it's kind of a testament to his abilities as a coach, I think.
Yeah, I think I've also got down that I think he's a little bit more tactically experimental than Klopp is. I think, for example, he'd be the type to maybe in the odd match, depending on the scenario, I think he'd maybe be the type to just throw into midfield, just those little tiny little tests, basically, that I don't think Klopp has much of an interest in. I think Klopp's a lot more, well, pragmatic maybe than people think. Klopp's very grounded with the way he approaches things. Although he's very offensive, he's quite realistic with the way he sets up. But I think there's plenty of managers out there that are a bit more experimental with what they do, and I think Nagelsmann's one of them. One thing about he doesn't seem to have the Klopp persona, but I might as well say now that I couldn't find anyone who did. It's quite, it's unique, isn't it? The larger than life character that Klopp is. You're not really going to find that. And because of that, I've wrote down that he is developing a reputation in the game. I think people are aware of him, but I don't think he's yet got the attraction as he. I mean, say for example, Liverpool were fighting it out for a player such as Kylian Mbappe, and Mbappe's got the choice between several clubs. I think right now, Klopp would come into Mbappe's thinking, but I don't think Nagelsmann, at his current level at least, would. Maybe he will, by delivering trophies throughout his career, but I don't think he's there yet, is he?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe as Liverpool manager, Mike, though, I think if he was to make that step up to Liverpool now, or say in the next 2 years or whatever, I think that would attract a lot of interest on him, and I think people would start taking him a little bit more serious as this is the guy. This guy is, what's he been doing? He's been doing this, and he's achieved what with who, and I think that's where the interest comes from. So I think he's definitely great that he's not that coach yet, or he hasn't got that kind of persona yet. But I do think he's on that path, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree there. And just a little bit on his numbers, Leipzig obviously currently second in the Bundesliga for expected goals and first for expected goals against. So very short sample size. I think they've only played around 30 games or so. And obviously Liverpool will have data going back, throughout his whole career probably. But those are the types of numbers that suggest that he can coach a team, because if you've got the best defence in the league and the second best attack in the league, you're going to win more often than not. So yeah, I think he ticks a lot of boxes, and it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Hopefully, I mean, the only issue with it, I mean, I'm talking away from the alternative thing now, and I'm looking into the future. The only issue I can see with it is Klopp's contract till about 2023, 2024 or something like that. Can you see Nagelsmann avoiding England for that long? That's the only issue I can see.
Like, you think by the time Liverpool are ready to bring a new manager in, they might miss the boat type thing?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And obviously that stems from how good Klopp is, but I kind of think as myself that another English club will snap on first.
Well, let's have a look at kind of the potential candidates. So you'd say, are City going to have a new manager in the next, say, let's talk 2 years, because I think that's a good time. Potentially they could, because, Guardiola, we know that he doesn't tend to stay too long. He's been here a few years now, hasn't he? And City could be a potential candidate. I think United, I don't know, it depends what happens to Solskjaer. The one that I'm kind of thinking could be the kind of package that he'd end up going to is maybe someone like Tottenham,
Yeah, I think they've actually showcased an interest in him previously, but I don't think they sold it enough to him, and I don't think they made him feel enough like he was wanted, according to his own words, I think.
All right, okay. I think post Mourinho, depending on what happens there, because even if he's successful, you can't see Mourinho being there for the long haul. I just think the kind of infrastructure they have in place, there's less of an expectancy on them to, the way you're there at United, the United way, and this, even though we're talking some really fantastic football to watch here in what he brings, but I don't know, I feel like Tottenham is a club that you go in and mould into your own philosophy and your own direction.
I mean, put it this way, the only thing with what you're saying, I think by 2023 or 2024 or so, I think by then, United will have had at least one new manager. Spurs will have had at least one new manager, and City will have had at least one new manager. That's the issue. I don't think Arteta. I think Arteta's got potential to still be in Arsenal.
Yeah, unless he bombs.
Lampard will still be at Chelsea, maybe.
Yeah, no, you're right, because they're both young managers who are meant to be there for the. You say long goal, obviously it's hard to predict this stuff, but looking into the future, that's the idea. Whereas the other managers you've named, not really. Obviously, Pep was meant to be, but Pep's already been there a few years, hasn't he? So, yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, whether he'll still be there, I don't know.
No, he looks really good though. Yeah, one for the future maybe, but certainly keep an eye out for him. If you're Liverpool, I don't know how these things work specifically inside clubs, but if you're Liverpool, maybe you're giving them the odd little hint that in the future something's waiting there for them.
Yeah.
So, who are we going to go with next then?
Do you what? I mean, I'm happy to go, but as I said, I feel like I'm always going first here. Do you wanna get yours in first?
Yeah, go on. I'll go first then.
Okay, go on, mate.
So I went down another coach in the Bundesliga and another graduate of the Red Bull system, Marco Rose.
So did I, mate.
Yeah, and no surprises. I'm
not
surprised.
What? We did talk about this before the show, didn't we? And a good point was made that it kind of reaffirms the quality of the candidates if we're both kind of flagging the same person. So I think that's interesting, actually.
Yeah. That shows we're both at least in the same line of thinking, which can only be a good thing.
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, great minds, mate. Great minds.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, Marco Rose, he's currently at Borussia Mönchengladbach, and he's been awarded that job basically because of his time at Red Bull Salzburg. It's currently being forwarded by Jesse March, but he took over from Rose, who left in the summer. I think it was the summer just gone.
Yeah.
But he seems to have immediately improved. Gladbach speaks English as far as I'm aware. His right-hand man is René Maric. For those who aren't aware, he's an absolute expert, tactical mind. I suppose that is how I define him. Really young, up-and-coming assistant who views the game differently to a lot of people, put it that way.
Yeah, he originally started out, didn't he, as a renowned football blogger on Twitter, and kind of took a really unique career path to where he's got. And he has quite a following, doesn't he, on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, but the way, for example, whenever Pep Ljinders takes a press conference and the things Pep Ljinders comes out with, and he just make you think. I think René Maric is very similar, if not even more like that in terms of the way he perceives the game and the way he talks. It's just very thought provoking, things he says. But another coach anyway, who's very modern, only 43 years old, very tactical. I think Mönchengladbach changed their system virtually every week. Keep the same principles of play, which involve pressing and things like that, but the actual formation changes most weeks, I think. And interestingly, he's worked under Klopp before as a player, and he's referenced in the past how Klopp has impacted his managerial, behaviour, if you like. I think he deals with people similarly to how he saw Klopp deal with people.
Josh, where was that at? Because I didn't know that.
Yeah, I read the piece on it. I'll double check where it was in a sec. But yeah, I remember reading the piece on it. It was Marco Rose talking about leadership and things like that. And his concept of leadership basically derives from how Klopp perceived it. So I suppose you could almost label him as a Klopp disciple there, which is ideal if Klopp's going to spend around 7 to 10 years at Liverpool. And then the man to replace him is a man who's essentially a disciple of his. And he's also got experience winning, unlike Nagelsmann, albeit at a slightly lower level in Austria. So he's won one Austrian Youth League under 16s, 2 Austrian Youth Leagues under 18s, 1 UEFA Youth League, 1 Austrian Cup, and 2 Austrian Champions. That's the first division. So he's clearly won. Mönchengladbach were doing well this season up until falling off a little bit. I think they're currently now third, is it? Something like that.
Yeah, still 6 points off, which isn't too bad.
Yeah. I think he's another manager building his reputation as Nagelsmann is. Maybe doesn't have that law right now, but possibly will have in the future. And he, again, crucially, seems to improve players. Spoke about Dennis Zakaria a few weeks ago for our midfield option. He's a player currently working under Marco Rose. And I think Marcus Thuram has also come on leaps and bounds this season since working under him. So, yeah, he's another one similar to Nagelsmann who just seems to really fit the bill for me. He seems to be able to, he looks like he'd be able to come in, mix things up a little bit, change things here and there to do with the team style of play and different ideas and stuff. But Liverpool of Klopp would still remain, if you like.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of what you said there, I can only really agree. I think you made a really good point, and the reason I found it really interesting about him playing under Klopp was because I'd actually wrote here about various things that I read about them. It seems very much like he's similar to Klopp in the sense that he allows a little bit more freedom to his players. If you compare it to like a Pep system where it's very intricate and ready to everybody kind of has to be within the ideologies of the team. It seems like playing under him. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still patterns of play and stuff, but it seems like there's more decision making left to the players whilst they're out there. And that is more how we've said this months back about the differences between Pep and Klopp. That's something that Klopp does. He lets the players have a little bit more freedom in what they decide to do, when they have the ball. And I think that's something that Rose seems to be doing as well. So I just found that really interesting. I actually played under Klopp, and I do wonder whether that filtered down from there.
Yeah, I've got the info on that now if you want to.
Yeah, if you don't mind, mate, yeah.
Yeah, so Klopp coached Marco Rose when he was playing as a fullback, 6 years at Mainz. So it was before Klopp went to Dortmund. So it was, between 2002 and 2008, maybe that period. Marco Rose was a fullback for Klopp, and 6 years under him, and I think he's since spoke about how he's impacted his managerial career, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting that, and I also want to just touch a little bit more on the point that you raised about winning things, because that is a key difference between, say, him and Nagelsmann, and I do think winning things breeds that winner's mentality. And I've read a few interviews like Rennie, for example, where I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I can't remember where I saw the interview, but he was talking about the importance of pressing and possession, and because it does seems like this Mönchengladbach side a little bit more well-rounded than the Salzburg side that he had. But anyway, Rennie was saying that as a top team, you can't concede the ball to an underdog who's happy with the game staying 0-0. If you want to win against the side who's happy not to lose, you need to go out and get the ball and get it early. And that's the kind of behaviours of a top team, isn't it? That's kind of what you see, the likes of Liverpool and stuff doing now. And I just think that little element of potentially already have that winner's mentality within, it kind of sets you up for a successful career. And that duo do seem to have that to them. I think he's going to do really well. It wouldn't surprise me if he managed to deliver some sort of maybe a Bundesliga title over the next year or two. And once again, just going back to how good the Red Bull kind of infrastructure is for breeding managers. He's come from it again, and it does kind of set you up to succeed at places like Liverpool, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned there about his desire to win is quite important, because I think there's a wide variety of maybe what you'd deem as hipster managers out there, managers that are trendy and have got attractive styles of play, but they never really win anything. I think, for example, I don't really want to throw him under the bus here because he's good at what he does, but I think the current Barcelona boss, Quique Setien, I think he's always been, very, very attractive style of play and all that sort of stuff, playing football the right way, if you like. But he's never really come close to delivering consistent results every single week. He's almost too utopian. And I think the two bosses we've mentioned so far, Rose and Nagelsmann, they're trendy and they're modern and, tactical and all that sort of stuff. But you can also see that there's a desire there to deliver, which is what Liverpool need.
Yeah, you're right. I always think when the presiding element is like winning rather than style, I think that's when you get more adaptable managers. I think, and I do like him, but someone could call me out here because my knowledge only goes so far back. Maybe last 10, 15 years, and maybe he's won a lot more of that. But even if you think of like Bielsa at Leeds, everybody loves Bielsa, loves his style, but I don't think he's had the biggest successful career. He's been at a lot of clubs and a lot of big clubs, but I don't think he's necessarily won a lot of trophies. I hope I don't end up being wrong on that.
No, I know what you mean. I think he's generally done better in his home conditions, I think. And he's obviously really, really good at getting a side really well coached. But I know what you're saying in terms of delivering actual results.
Yeah.
They've maybe shown a tendency to fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah. Well, do you think, just going back to Rose, do you think there's more realism to that in potentially becoming a Liverpool manager, in the sense that, for me, it could change if he starts delivering a lot of trophies in Germany, but he doesn't seem as sought after as maybe others, or even like Nagelsmann. And do you think there's maybe more into the longevity before going to somewhere like Liverpool further down the line?
Yeah, for me, he should be sought after, and I think over the course of the when he did go to Mönchengladbach, I was quite surprised that nobody from England was really fussed on. I remember thinking to myself that potentially Everton could have followed the route of Marco Rose, but obviously they ended up sticking with Marco Silva and then eventually getting Ancelotti in. But I don't know, he's the type of manager that should certainly improve with time, and I think he's very much almost at the start of his career, despite the fact that he's spent a few years in Salzburg, and I think they actually got quite far in the Europa League a few seasons as well.
Didn't they beat someone like Benfica or someone? That was quite a coup for them, really.
Yeah, I think they got to maybe a semi-final with them at some point, and I think they just got edged out by Napoli, maybe, or a team, some team like that, Sevilla or something. I'm not sure.
And us talking about that now may not seem that like interesting, because obviously they were in the Champions League this year, but they seem a better outfit now compared to what they were then. It feels like that was really, quite a feat for them to achieve, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, Spurs are very, very well known, depending on how into football you actually are. But I think during those years where he got them quite far in the Europa League, I think he not put them on the map, but do you know what I mean? Kind of generated a bit of interest in them and stuff like that. And I think he provided a bit of a platform for where they've went on to be right now in terms of being in the Champions League each year, and being able to compete with Liverpool, really, because we had two quite difficult games against them in the group stage this season.
Yeah, no, they were impressive in both games. It does feel like, when just touching on Bundesliga, and again we weren't even planning on talking about this, but It does feel like when we're having this conversation, it shows that they seem to be a lot more progressive, don't they, in terms of the coaches that they bring in the sides as a whole. Obviously, I don't know, maybe you do, but I don't focus on the lesser sides in the division. No, not out of choice, but there's only so much football you can kind of take in, isn't it? But as a division, it seems to be a lot more progressive than say what we see in England.
Yeah, I think what it is they're a lot more willing to take risks and a lot more willing to think outside the box. Basically, I think so many Premier League bosses, the first thought is, I need to get someone in who will deliver results.
Yeah.
Even if like you're in charge of, I'm trying to think of an absolute middle of the road, mid-table Premier League club who aren't really going to go down and they're not going to challenge. Yet the owners consistently focus on results, rather than thinking about maybe developments over a medium to long term, and eventually being something better, basically, as Spurs, for example, under Poch.
Yeah, you'd probably say that, like maybe I know they did try it, but they got it all wrong. You'd say probably Crystal Palace or someone's like that. They've except when they tried to bring in I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
Frank de Boer.
Yeah, they brought him in, but either side of that, it was obviously Hodgson. Then was it Pardew? Was it Pardew?
Yeah, something like that.
And then they've dropped him in. Haven't really prepared for it in any way, and they've kind of hit the panic button just as quick and changed it. And yeah, there's a lot more examples of that, and it feels like a lot more Premier League teams kind of compete to survive rather than to be successful.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe that isn't the case in the Bundesliga. I did see an article. I only skimmed over it a couple of weeks ago. It was on Wolfsburg. Now let me try and remember their manager. They've got someone I think who's quite young in, or maybe I don't know. They had someone in, and I can't remember anyway. But the point to say was that it didn't work out for them. But it seems like they've been persistent with a younger manager in the hope that things would turn around. And yeah, you just couldn't really see that. And even now, Potter's considered quite young, and people are already talking about sacking him at Brighton.
Yeah, well, I think Potter, although I rate Potter, I think he maybe fits in a little bit more with the Kick-Setien bracket at the minute in terms of hipsterish, modern, trendy. Clearly good at what he does in terms of coaching and stuff, but you have to deliver results as well. There's got to be a bit of a balance there. Also, I think very few are able to blend that.
Yeah, I agree. Also, our producer just said it was a Big Sam in between Pardew, De Boer, and Palace. But if anything, that just reaffirms the point we were making.
Yeah, that is a mixed bag event. So, have you got? Did you put any other managers down, or?
No, that was I put those two down as my kind of prime candidates, really.
Well, I wanted to throw one more in there just to get your general opinion.
Okay.
Because it's unlikely, but part of me suggests that maybe he is quite suited, I suppose. Mauricio Pochettino. What do you think the A on the suitability and B on the likelihood of that happening? So I think he was always a bit jealous looking over at Liverpool, to be honest. Compared to Spurs not being willing to back him to go over that final hurdle, and Liverpool back to Klopp.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pochettino is a really strange one because he's I think we can all agree he's a fantastic manager. But he's one of these managers that has that lingering thing over no success hanging over them, which I don't always think is quite fair to judge people on that, even though we were talking about its importance earlier. With Liverpool, I mean, we're talking about realism. I think I don't know, because is he going to be a manager that's kind of without work for a few years, or is he going to be loitering at like a mid-table club where Liverpool can just come along and pick him up and take him in? But
put it this way: if Klopp was to resign today, and Pochettino was offered the Liverpool job, I think he'd be insane to turn that down.
Yeah. Oh, if you're saying that if that happened now, I think that would be a very good move for both parties. I think the way Pochettino likes his team to play suits Liverpool perfectly, and he doesn't go with the ideologies of the club as well. Really, you forget how good Spurs were. Maybe not in the later days, but in terms of the press and some of the football they played, it was really in line with what we kind of associate with Liverpool. So I think they could be a really good match.
Yeah, his Spurs team a few years ago was honestly ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think for me, we've just been mentioning then about trendy managers coinciding with results. And although Poch hasn't got silverware, for me, he still ticks the results bracket. Reach Champions League final, and that for me, they can go either way. And over a 2-season period, I think Spurs were comfortably the best team in England, but because of how each 38-game period panned out, I think they finished second to Leicester or something like that. And then the following season, third or something. But I think over the full 2 seasons, I think they finished with the most points if you accumulated both points tallies to a total.
Yeah, I think again, our producer, who's an Arsenal fan, would be desperate to point out that they finished third to Leicester because on the final day they got pipped by Arsenal.
Yeah. I was thinking that then in the back of my head.
But it was a 2-horse race for that season. But I agreed. Over that couple of years, they were really unlucky not to win something, and they probably deserve something to kind of reaffirm the position as one of the better sides really in the country. And the football that they were playing whilst they did, it was just phenomenal. And he turned out to be a fantastic coach. When I raised my eyebrows a little bit, I thought he'd done really well at Southampton, but I was like, is this kind of a Marco Silva-esque signing?
Yeah.
And admittedly, I didn't kind of study football to the level that I do now. So maybe if I was, I would have saw, below the surface that he was going to be a success. But I was blown away really over those years, just how good he was and how good the side was. And if we bring it back onto Liverpool, then the more we talk about it, it does seem like he could be a really good candidate.
Yeah, I just reason to mention him is just because the whole dominant style of play that we talk about is what he had at Spurs, although he gradually lost it over time, but I think it was due to the squad. I think he is a bit more inclined to create a bit of conflict, unlike Klopp. But I do think he would vaguely apply. But obviously, I think that one's a bit of a wild card. So
good though.
Yeah. So to round up the show, because we've got a little bit of time remaining, Christian, who hasn't been on for a few weeks now, had the idea of just a general chat on who would win a game of football, an imaginary game of football, Klopp's Liverpool or Klopp's Borussia Dortmund. Have you got any immediate thoughts before we get into it, or?
I mean, I could give a sentence answer, but I think we want to try and go into a little bit more detail than that. I think it'd be an interesting game. Should we say that?
Yeah, I've got the Dortmund team here. So
just before I cut in, sorry, what have you considered their kind of golden period, their like golden years or whatever?
So obviously you can't only pick one team, but the team that I've went for, the one that came to mind for me, I've found in the 4-1 win over Real Madrid in the Champions League, and that consists of Weidenfeller in goal, Schmelzer, Hummels, Subotic, Piszczek, then a midfield 2 of Gundogan, Bender.
Yeah.
Then Marco Reus, Mario Götze, and Blaszczykowski.
Well done.
And then Lewandowski up front in a 4-2-3-1.
I basically got the
Dortmund, I remember.
Yeah, I basically got the same team, but I've got Perisic in there on the left, and then Ruiz through the middle and Götze on the right.
Perisic?
Yeah.
The Inter Perisic?
Yeah, but you know what? 2 seconds. Just carry on as you are. I mean, I want to check something.
Okay. Yeah, but the Dortmund I remember at the time, I wasn't massive. I wasn't yet involved with football as much as I am now. So I think I was most focused on their Champions League one on that. So the other Dortmund side that I saw didn't feature Mario Götze, and it instead had maybe I'm going to butcher this name now, but I think it was Grobkreutz or something like that on the left.
Yeah, see, I can't find where the exact game I've got this from. But he was, I mean, he was there. He was there from 2011, 2013. I'm just trying to find where this exact team comes from, what game it was in. I haven't got it, but yeah, Perisic on the left.
Is that Ivan Perisic?
Yeah, he did play.
I did not know he played for Dortmund.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Hold on, let me get it up and find out how many times he actually played for them. Yeah, 42 times over 2011, 2013. 9 goals.
He will have been about 21 or so.
Yeah, he scored. Yeah, our producer said he scored a beauty against Arsenal in 2012.
I must have missed that, you know.
Yeah, but sorry, mate, I can't find the exact game that I've pulled this from. But I mean, it's virtually the same as the team you've got up anyway, isn't it? Bad player.
Yeah. But I don't know if you've got what are your thoughts on the key aspects of the game then, I suppose.
Yeah, so this is really, I've just got a lot of memory of what I kind of remember of that side, and you know, they were fast, they were ruthless. They seemed to be one of the teams that, although pressing wasn't necessarily a new concept, the way they were doing, you know, like the gen pressing, sorry, it just seemed to be completely.
I think it was quite unorthodox, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, I'm glad you finished that sentence for me. I was getting tongue twisted there. But yeah, I think we especially saw the impact in Europe. I don't think, you know, we think of like Barcelona's and stuff, and you know, the kind of top teams in Europe at the time. I don't think they knew how to handle it. It was very unique, and I think it caught a lot of sides off guard. Obviously, it was really successful in the Bundesliga. I think they had really good technical players in attack. You know, they were just a very intense team. Things that kind of we not now know about Klopp, but at the time, many didn't. I suppose if I had maybe one criticism was it could be a little bit more one-dimensional, and you know, if you compare that to Liverpool now, seem to be able to beat you in many different ways. It feels like back then Dortmund's kind of only really had that one way of playing, which maybe led to their downfall.
Yeah, I think what it was and what Klopp was basically focused on a transition game, basically. So thriving when the ball's loose, and then when you lose the ball, I think you mentioned there about pressing. But I don't think the pressing was particularly new, but using pressing as a means of creating a goal scoring chance was quite, you know, it wasn't really seen, particularly at the top of the European game at that time. This was around a period where Barcelona were just thriving with nice possession-based football, and Klopp came in with this, what he deemed as heavy metal.
Yeah, I remember that term. Yeah, it felt, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe if I restructure the sentences, it felt new in the terms of being used as an offensive tool rather than just a defensive one.
Yeah. But I think Dortmund were very focused on. I don't think they were particularly focused on possession, and I think they were just intent on forcing mistakes of the opponent, basically, and then punishing them with a serious attack in Lewandowski and Royce, Mario Götze. You know, these are quality players. I think Liverpool in the modern day, I think Klopp's learned, specifically in England, that relying on pressing as a means of chance creation isn't that sustainable, simply because in certain matches you will face Burnley and you will face, you know, a team that are willing to just absolutely boost it into the stands. And as you said earlier, they're willing to just turn up, not to lose. So those teams, you need other ways to beat them. And I think it's made Klopp a more complete manager. It's made Liverpool a more complete team. and we can now hear teams in various different ways rather than what you've just said there about Dortmund being quite one-dimensional despite being very good.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I think that kind of rounds it up quite well. I don't remember. I don't think they were very good in possession, were they? They couldn't see, despite having really good technical players. And also, just a side point is, if you kind of look at their record around that time, they didn't. I know they won things, but it felt like they didn't really sustain runs in multiple competitions. I think a lot of that comes down to, burning out, because of, we know how intense that kind of style of play is from watching Liverpool. Whereas now, you spoke about it before, Liverpool kind of adapt the game where they'll go down from fifth gear to maybe second or third at various points in the game to sustain energy, to kind of, play at top level across various games for a prolonged period. And it felt like maybe back then Klopp and his team hadn't really sussed that out perfectly.
Yeah, I think that maybe derived from the fact that Klopp wanted Dortmund to just press ferociously every single match, whether the match be in 3 days' time or whatever. I think that's another thing he's improved with time, to kind of, I suppose, if you're 2 or 3-0 up, kind of take your foot off the gas, conserve your energy, and that sort of stuff. If you're facing a team that aren't going to let you press them, rather than still trying to do it, just don't even bother really, and deliver a bit more of a realistic plan rather than going down the idealistic route of we're going to press them into a mistake when you're facing, as I said, a Burnley type team. So how do you think the match would actually play out on the pitch? Because for me, I would see Klopp's Dortmund being perfectly fine with allowing Liverpool to have the ball, with a view to, as I've just said, basically making a mistake and, Royce and Lewandowski and countering. The issue I'd see with that, though, and the reason I think Liverpool would win this game, is because Liverpool's defence, particularly, is a lot better than Dortmund's. And I think the likes of Van Dijk and Gomez and players like that, I don't think they're that vulnerable to counter-attacks. I think they've got enough about them to cope with these quick counters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think it would have been a lot more of a successful tactic for teams this season if they weren't. If they were vulnerable, I think we would have saw a lot of examples of Liverpool getting done on the counter attack, and I don't know. I can't really think of any, or many this season. So yeah, I think that would be the.
I was going to say the one that comes to mind, which isn't really a counter, but it was supposed to be a quick break, was Wolves away. A down the throwaway cross to hit to Raul Jimenez's header. Really good goal.
Yeah, but then, yeah, okay, fair. I was about to say, but that's what Wolves are good at. But then this Dortmund side were good at that as well. Yeah, well, maybe they would score on the night, but I still just think, Liverpool would control the game. I think Liverpool now know how to control the game against sides who would sit back, but also create chances as well. And that defence, I know you got the likes of Hummels in there, but I don't think that was a great defensive unit. I don't think it was the type of side that could sit back and soak up, pressure. And like I say to you, don't like me, I think Liverpool could, if they wanted to be a side, fantastic sitting in a low block. But they just don't need to be. I don't think this Dortmund defence or this Dortmund side could do that.
I agree, but at the same time, I would I'd personally give that Dortmund defence as a team a bit more credit, because their way of defending was from the front, wasn't it? Pressing as a team, regardless, kind of going down the route of preventing shots, sort of thing. I think Klopp's record when he came to Liverpool, I remember a piece from Andrew Beasley, based Tune to Red on Twitter. I think he wrote about Klopp when he when he was rumoured to come to Liverpool, or when he arrived or something like that, and he captured Klopp's Dortmund performance in the numbers in attack and defence, and Klopp demonstrated an ability to get his attack working and his defence working at the same time. I think the difference in that, though, is that pressing from the front is a means of defending, just worked a lot better in Germany because of the different styles, whereas in England, as I said before, if a team presses a more direct side in England, they just boot it, they just hit it long. So
yeah,
yeah.
That's a good point.
So who would you say is the winner then?
Liverpool for me. I just think that they're just a more complete side. Even the last time Dortmund won the league, I did have a gander at this, and it was in 2011, 2012, and Dortmund dropped 21 points that season. Whereas you look at this Liverpool side in a really competitive Premier League, have dropped 4. I just think they're a complete side, and for me, this Liverpool side would probe until they found an opening, and even if Dortmund could find a way to score at the other end, maybe on a Wolves-esque counter attack, I think you'd have to score 2 or 3 to get anything out of the game on the day, because it's very rare that Liverpool score less than 2 goals in a match. So
Yeah.
I think Liverpool would win.
Yeah, I think this Dortmund side against the Liverpool side before Van Dijk and Alisson, I think would be a bit of a close contest, wouldn't it? That'd be a end to end, a bit of a crazy one, I think.
Yeah, like 2018 Liverpool.
Yeah. I think it was. In fact, no, 2018-19 was still Van Dijk and Alisson. I think it would have been before that, while we still had Coutinho.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that, like the end of the City Champions League fixture period. I think that was the start of 2018. So that would have been 17-18, sorry. But yeah, just that side then where they could kind of, blow sides away, but maybe weren't there defensively.
Yeah. Well, listen, anyway, we'll leave it there, I think. That, I think, definitely rounds off the series of finding basically similar personnel.
Next week, looking at physios.
Yeah. Next week, find another Pep Ljinders or something like that. Another Mould. But hopefully people enjoyed it anyway. I mean, we've got a month's worth of content, I suppose, out of that.
I enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah, I did as well. I like doing things like that. God knows where we're going to go next week. We'll have to come up with some ideas. If you've got any, send them over to us. But thanks for joining us, Dave.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
And thanks for tuning in. See you next week.